Alex Conant is a former communications director for Senator Marco Rubio and a CBSN political contributor. He joins me now from Washington. Alex, good to see you as well.
Good afternoon, DeMarco.
All right, the president has tweeted that nobody wants to deport the Dreamers, but based on the backlash, it sure seems like that's exactly what his base wants him to do. Is it what he promised to do repeatedly during his campaign? Will he be able to do it? And can he do a deal with the Democrats and keep his supporters happy at the same time?
Yeah, the bottom line is he doesn't have a lot of good options politically on the DREAM Act. Look, he doesn't want to deport 800,000 kids. The optics of that would be terrible for his presidency. He didn't even like the media coverage he got when he announced that he was ending the program in 6 months. So it's very clear that he's trying to find a way to not end up deporting all of these kids. That means he has to negotiate with the Democrats because he's going to need Democratic votes to pass anything. But again, his base, the people that read Breitbart News, that get their news primarily from Breitbart, they oppose the DREAM Act. They don't want to see any action taken on these dreamers until the wall is built, as President Trump repeatedly promised during the campaign trail. So he's in a tough spot where he has to deliver on both the wall and he wants to figure out a way to accommodate these kids. I think that there is a way to do it. The Democrats and the Republicans in the House are willing to work with him on border security in exchange for the DREAM Act. But if he doesn't have a wall to point to, that's a political problem for his base, as you've seen with how Breitbart's responded this week.
All right, Alex, late Friday night, a federal judge in Chicago struck down the Justice Department's attempt to withhold grant money from so-called sanctuary cities. Is that a major setback?
We'll see. I mean, that continues to work its way through not just the courts, but also Congress. These sanctuary cities, that is, cities that refuse to enforce federal laws vis-a-vis illegal immigrants in those cities, that's a long-time issue on Capitol Hill. Republicans would love to see some sort of legislative action taken against those cities, potentially by withholding grant monies from them or otherwise forcing them to help enforce federal law in those cities. And clearly, the Trump administration is on the sides of most Republicans in that case. I don't think that this is an issue that's going to play out primarily in the courts, despite what the court we saw the court do this week. Ultimately, this will be an issue that's settled in Congress and potentially as part of a much larger comprehensive immigration reform if Trump chose to pursue that with the Democrats.
All right, let's go and talk North Korea if we can. The UN held an emergency session on Friday after the Kim regime test-fired yet another missile. The president's national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, said, quote, "We are out of time on North Korea." What's the president's next move?
Well, they need to put pressure on China. I mean, I think that is their only real strategy at this point, is figure out ways to put leverage on China to put pressure on North Korea. So far, I think the administration has to be disappointed with how China has responded to the North Koreans' provocative acts over the last 6 months. They've not cut off nearly enough energy or oil and coal imports into the country as the Trump administration has asked them to do. Clearly, the actions at the UN this last week were primarily focused on getting China, and to a lesser extent Russia, on board with heavier sanctions. And this next week at the UN, there's going to be a lot of talk about North Korea and how to slow down their missile and nuclear programs. Again, the key is China, 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 and that's everything that the Trump administration is doing right now, both publicly and behind the scenes, I believe is intended to put pressure on China to try to influence North Korea.
All right, switching to the attacks in London, the president is using the attack to defend his travel ban, suggesting it should be even more robust. In many ways, he won that battle in the courts, but why bring it up now, especially when we don't have much information about who carried out the attacks?
Well, this is about domestic politics. This is not about national security overseas. It's not about the terror attack in London. Look, as we talked earlier in the segment, President Trump had a rough week with his base. The news that he was cutting a deal with Chuck Schumer to do the DREAM Act to save young illegal immigrants did not go over well with his base. And so for the rest of the week, he's been trying to find ways to throw red meat to his base. And clearly the travel ban is about the juiciest piece of red meat in his arsenal, if you will. And so that's why he did the tweet yesterday. He's also done things like attack a personality on ESPN. He's been attacking Democrats on other issues, calling for an end to the filibuster, all sorts of red meat for his base, trying to remind them that despite despite a potential deal with Chuck Schumer on illegal immigrants, he's still one of them.
All right, Alex Conant in Washington. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Have a good Saturday.
Thank you.